Sometimes separation is not punishment. Sometimes it is the only way two souls stop destroying what they are meant to build later. The distance between you both may feel like rejection, but it could be the hidden space where maturity, clarity, and truth are being formed. Think of the one person you still feel, even when no words are exchanged. Ask yourself, why does the connection still remain when the contact is gone? If this message feels personal, stay with it until the end, because the final part will show you why this separation may not be the end, but a preparation. Sometimes separation is not punishment. Sometimes it is the only way two souls stop destroying what they are meant to build later. And that is the part most people refuse to accept, because when someone is taken away from you, when the conversation stops, when the warmth becomes silence, your first instinct is to believe you have lost. You think the universe has closed the door, when in truth it may have only removed both of you from the room before the fire consumed everything. Because there are connections that arrive before the people inside them are ready. The feeling is real, the pull is real, the recognition is real, but the emotional maturity is not yet strong enough to carry what the soul has already recognized. One person may love deeply but run from vulnerability. The other may care sincerely but become consumed by fear, expectation, or control. And when two wounded hearts try to hold something sacred with unhealed hands, they often bruise the very thing they are trying to protect. So the distance begins, not always because love has disappeared, but because the way both people were handling love was becoming dangerous. The silence becomes a forced pause. The separation becomes a sacred interruption. It stops the cycle before resentment becomes permanent, before pride says words that cannot be taken back, before insecurity turns affection into possession, before fear turns two people into enemies. This is why the separation hurts so deeply. It is not only the pain of missing someone, it is the pain of being forced to face what you were becoming around them. Maybe you were chasing too much. Maybe they were hiding too much. Maybe both of you were carrying old wounds into a new bond and calling it fate. But fate does not reward unconscious love. It demands transformation. And sometimes the universe separates two people not because they are wrong for each other, but because they are wrong in their current form. The love may be there, but the version of you that met them may not be the version capable of keeping them. The version of them that walked away may not be the version capable of returning with honesty. Separation becomes a painful space where both are broken open, refined, and prepared. The distance between you both may feel like rejection, but it could be the hidden space where maturity, clarity, and truth are being formed. This is difficult to understand when your heart is still reaching for them. Because when someone pulls away, when replies become cold, when presence turns into absence, the mind immediately creates the harshest story. You tell yourself they never cared. You tell yourself you were foolish to feel so much. You tell yourself the bond was only alive inside you. But not every distance is a denial of love. Sometimes distance is what happens when the connection becomes too intense for two unprepared people to hold. The soul may recognize someone before the mind has learned how to respond with patience. The heart may feel devotion before the personality has learned how to communicate without fear. And because of this, two people can feel something powerful and still not know how to protect it. That is where the hidden work begins. In the silence, the fantasy starts to break. You stop seeing only what you wanted them to be, and you begin seeing what actually happened. You see where you gave too much. You see where they avoided too much. You see where both of you were acting from wounds instead of wisdom. This is painful, but it is necessary, because love without clarity becomes confusion, and confusion, if it continues long enough, becomes suffering. Distance also reveals truth. When someone is always near, you can confuse attachment with love, habit with connection, and fear of losing them with genuine devotion. But when space enters, everything artificial begins to fall away. What remains after silence is more honest than what existed in constant contact. If the bond was only desire, it fades. If it was only ego, it turns bitter. But if something deeper was there, it does not disappear so easily. It becomes quieter but stronger. So do not rush to call this separation the end. It may be the place where both of you are being forced to grow beyond the versions that first met. Because reunion without maturity is only a repeat of the same wound. But distance with awareness can become preparation. It can teach one person courage, the other humility, and both of them the truth they were too afraid to face. Think of the one person you still feel even when no words are exchanged. Ask yourself, why does the connection still remain when the contact is gone? This is a question that unsettles the heart, because ordinary attachment weakens when distance enters. Ordinary desire fades when it is not fed. Ordinary attraction loses its power when there is no attention, no messages, no closeness, no daily reminder. But some connections do not disappear just because the outer world has gone silent. You may try to distract yourself. You may try to convince yourself that it was nothing. You may tell your mind to move on, to be practical, to stop returning to the same name, the same face, the same memory. Yet something inside you still pauses when you think of them. Not always with desperation, not always with pain, but with a strange inner recognition, as if some part of you still knows them beyond what happened between you. And this is where you must be honest with yourself. Is this connection pulling you toward growth, or is it pulling you back into obsession? Because not every person you cannot forget is meant to return. Some people stay in your mind because they represent an unfinished wound. Others stay because they awaken something in you that you had buried for years. And a rare few remain because the bond touched a deeper part of your inner life, a part that cannot be erased by silence. This is why the engagement begins within you. Do not only ask, do they miss me? That is too small. Ask, what did this person awaken in me? Did they awaken fear? Did they awaken longing? Did they show you where you abandon yourself? Did they reveal how deeply you want to be chosen? Did they expose the part of you that still confuses love with chasing? Because the universe does not use separation only to test the other person. It tests you too. It asks whether you can love without losing yourself. It asks whether you can miss someone without begging for proof. It asks whether you can feel a connection and still remain grounded in your own worth. That is where the real transformation begins. When two people are deeply connected, their unhealed fears rise to the surface. This is why the bond can feel beautiful one moment and unbearable the next. It is not always because the love is weak. Sometimes it is because the connection is strong enough to expose everything both people have tried to hide. The fear of being abandoned, the fear of being controlled, the fear of being truly seen, the fear that if someone comes too close, they will discover the parts you do not know how to love in yourself. This is what makes separation feel so personal. You may think they left because you were not enough. They may think you became too intense, too emotional, too demanding, or too distant. But beneath the surface, something deeper was happening. The relationship was not only creating feelings, it was revealing wounds. And when wounds are revealed, people often defend themselves instead of healing themselves. One person may become silent because silence feels safer than honesty. The other may chase because chasing feels safer than sitting with uncertainty. One may pretend not to care because vulnerability feels like weakness. The other may overthink every small sign because past rejection has trained them to expect pain. So both people begin reacting, not from the present moment, but from old emotional injuries they never properly faced. This is where the shadow appears. The shadow is not evil. It is the hidden part of you that carries fear, pride, jealousy, insecurity, shame, and all the emotions you do not want to admit. A deep connection does not create these things from nothing. It brings them into the light. It shows you where you are still afraid. It shows them where they are still guarded. It shows both of you why love alone is not enough without awareness. So when the universe forces distance, it may be because both people were becoming trapped in their shadow instead of meeting each other with truth. The separation becomes a mirror. It says, look at what this connection has awakened in you. Look at the part of yourself you keep blaming on them. Because until both people face their own darkness, they will keep turning love into a battlefield and calling the damage destiny. You may want reunion now, but reunion without growth only repeats the same pain. This is the truth the heart hates, because the heart wants relief more than it wants wisdom. It wants the message, the return, the apology, the sudden confession, the moment where everything becomes soft again. But the universe does not always give you what calms your anxiety. Sometimes it gives you what forces your soul to mature. Because if two people come back together too soon, nothing has really changed. The same fears return, the same arguments return, the same silence returns, the same chasing and withdrawing begins again. One person still wants proof every moment, the other still hides when emotions become serious. One still gives too much to feel secure, the other still takes distance to feel powerful or safe. And then both people wonder why love feels like suffering. This is why the universe removes what is immature before it allows something deeper to survive. It removes the obsession. It removes the need to control the outcome. It removes the fantasy that love means someone must complete you. It removes the pride that refuses to apologize. It removes the fear that makes you punish someone with silence. It removes the emotional dependency that makes you believe your life cannot breathe without one person beside you. And this removal is painful because many people confuse attachment with destiny. They think, if I feel this strongly, it must be meant to happen now. But intensity is not always readiness. Longing is not always love. Missing someone is not always a sign to return. Sometimes it is a sign to heal the part of you that made another person your entire emotional home. So when separation comes, do not only ask, when will they come back? Ask, what is being removed from me right now? Is it desperation? Is it fear? Is it pride? Is it the habit of abandoning yourself just to keep someone close? Because the universe is not trying to make you empty. It is trying to make you whole. And only whole people can return to love without turning it into a cage. When there is no contact, both people are forced to meet themselves. That is why silence feels so loud. It is not only the absence of their voice, it is the presence of every feeling you were avoiding while they were still close. When the messages stop, when the calls disappear, when the daily signs vanish, you are left with the one person you cannot escape, yourself. At first, silence feels cruel. It makes the mind restless. You replay conversations. You search for hidden meanings. You question whether they still care, whether they think of you, whether they regret what happened. But beneath all that noise, something deeper is happening. The silence is slowly stripping away illusion. It is showing you what was love, what was fear, what was habit, and what was emotional hunger. Because constant contact can become a distraction. It can keep two people from seeing the truth. As long as there is another message, another chance, another small sign of attention, both people can avoid looking inward. One person can keep hiding behind distance, the other can keep hiding behind chasing. One can avoid accountability, the other can avoid self-respect. But when silence enters, there is nowhere left to perform. This is why no contact becomes a mirror. It reflects your patterns back to you. It shows you whether you were loving freely or clinging tightly. It shows you whether you were patient or secretly trying to control the outcome. It shows you whether you missed the person or whether you missed the version of yourself that felt alive around them. And for them, silence may reveal what they took for granted, what they suppressed, and what they were too proud to admit when you were still available. But this mirror is not meant to punish you. It is meant to wake you up. It asks you to become honest without needing their response first. It asks you to stop measuring your worth by their silence. It asks you to understand that if something is truly meant to return, it cannot return through panic, begging, or emotional pressure. It must return through clarity. And clarity is born in the quiet place where both people finally see themselves without hiding. If this message feels personal, stay with it until the end, because the final part will show you why this separation may not be the end, but a preparation. And this is important, because many people leave too early from the truth that is trying to change them. They hear something that touches the wound, and instead of going deeper, they run back into fear, overthinking, or emotional reaction. But if this separation has been living inside you, if their silence still echoes in your chest, if you feel that something between you is unfinished, then do not treat this as another ordinary heartbreak. Look at it carefully, not desperately, not with fantasy, carefully. Because some separations are not designed to destroy the bond. They are designed to destroy the version of both people that could not yet protect the bond. The reason you must stay with this idea is because the mind wants quick answers. It wants to know whether they will return, when they will message, whether they miss you, whether they regret losing you. But the soul is asking a deeper question. Are you becoming someone who can receive love without fear? Are they becoming someone who can offer love without running? Because without that change, even the most emotional reunion becomes another painful cycle. This is why the final truth matters. The distance may not be empty, the silence may not be meaningless, the waiting may not simply be waiting. It may be the hidden work happening beneath the surface. You are being asked to stop chasing what is not ready. They are being asked to stop hiding from what they truly feel. Both of you are being shaped by the absence, because absence reveals what presence often covers. So do not just listen for comfort. Listen for correction. Listen for the part of you that knows you cannot return to the same pattern and call it destiny. If they come back, they must meet a stronger version of you. And if you meet them again, you must meet a more honest version of them. Otherwise, the universe did not separate you for preparation. It separated you because you refused to learn. The purpose is not just to bring two people back together. The purpose is to bring two changed people together. Wiser, softer, more honest, and finally ready to love without fear. Because if the universe only wanted reunion, it could happen quickly. One message, one apology, one moment of weakness, one late night confession. But quick returns do not always mean true healing. Sometimes they only reopen the same wound with sweeter words. A real reunion cannot be built on the same fear that caused separation. It cannot be built on one person chasing while the other runs. It cannot be built on silence used as punishment, love used as control, or longing used as proof of destiny. If both people return carrying the same pride, the same insecurity, the same emotional immaturity, then they are not returning to love. They are returning to the battlefield. This is why the later reunion must be different. The distance must teach one person how to stand in their own worth without begging. It must teach the other how to stop hiding behind fear and call it independence. It must teach both of them that love is not proven by intensity alone, but by responsibility, honesty, patience, and the courage to face uncomfortable truth. If they come back, it should not be because they are lonely. It should not be because they miss the attention. It should not be because life feels empty without someone waiting for them. They must come back because they have understood what they lost, what they mishandled, and what they are now ready to protect. And you must not receive them from the old place inside you, the place that accepts crumbs, excuses, and confusion just because your heart is tired. The universe may bring two people apart so that both can learn the cost of unconscious love. It teaches them that feeling something deeply is not enough. You must become capable of holding it with maturity. You must know how to speak, how to listen, how to apologize, how to stay present, and how to love without turning fear into distance. So if they return later, let it be different. Let it be calmer, let it be honest. Let it be two people meeting again, not to repeat the past, but to prove they finally understood why they were separated in the first place. So if the universe has forced you both apart, do not rush to call it cruelty. Sometimes what feels like loss is actually protection. Sometimes what feels like silence is actually a sacred pause. And sometimes what feels like the end is only the breaking of the old pattern. So something more honest can be born later. Because love that is not mature will always injure what it touches. It may be intense, magnetic, unforgettable, even spiritual, but if it is mixed with fear, pride, insecurity, avoidance, and control, it cannot become peace. It becomes a lesson. It becomes a mirror. It becomes the place where both people are forced to see the parts of themselves they kept hidden. This separation may be teaching you to stop chasing, to stop begging for clarity from someone who still fears their own truth. It may be teaching them to stop running, to stop hiding behind silence, and to finally understand what your absence has revealed. But understand this clearly. The goal is not to sit and wait for someone to return unchanged. The goal is to become so whole that if they return, you can recognize whether it is love or just another cycle wearing a softer face. If the bond is real, distance will not destroy it, it will refine it. It will remove the illusion, expose the wound, and test the truth beneath the longing. And if both of you are willing to grow, the same separation that broke your heart may one day become the reason you meet again with cleaner hands, calmer hearts, and deeper understanding. But until that day, do not abandon yourself. Do not pause your life at the door of someone's silence. Let the distance shape you, strengthen you, and return you to yourself. Because what is truly meant for you will not require you to lose your soul to keep it. And if the universe brings you together later, it will not be to repeat the past. It will be to show you what love becomes when two people finally learn how to hold it.